their charge to baseness and to ruin. I feel the soft infection flush in my cheek and wander in my veins. Teach me the Grecian arts of soft persuasion. Sure, this is love, which heretofore I conceived the dream of idle maids and wanton poets. Though no comets or prodigies foretold the ruin of Greece, signs which heaven must by another miracle enable us to understand, yet it might be foreshown by tokens no less certain, by the vices which always bring it on. This last passage is worked up in the tragedy itself as follows. Leontius, that power that kindly spreads the clouds, a signal of impending showers, to warn the wandering linnet to the shade, beheld without concern expiring Greece, and not one prodigy foretold our fate. Demetrius, 1,000 horrid prodigies foretold it, a feeble government, eluded laws, a factious populace, luxurious nobles, and all the maladies of sinking states. When public villainy, too strong for justice, shows his bold front, the harbinger of ruin, can brave Leontius call for airy wonders which cheats interpret and which fools regard? When some neglected fabric nods beneath the weight of years and totters to the tempest, must heaven dispatch the messengers of light or wake the dead to warn us of its fall? Mahomet to Irene. I have tried thee, and joy to find that thou deservest to be loved by Mahomet, with a mind as great as his own. Sure thou art an error of nature, and an exception to the rest of thy sex, and art immortal, for sentiments like thine were never to sink into nothing. I thought all the thoughts of the fair had been to select the graces of the day, dispose the colours of the flaunting, flowing robe, tune the voice and roll the eye, place the gem, choose the dress, and add new roses to the fading cheek, but sparkling. Thus in the tragedy. Illustrious maid, new wonders fix me thine, thy soul completes the triumphs of thy face. I thought, forgive my fair, the noblest aim, the strongest effort of a female soul, was but to choose the graces of the day, to tune the tongue, to teach the eyes to roll, dispose the colours of the flowing robe, and add new roses to the faded cheek. I shall select one other passage on account of the doctrine which it illustrates. Irene observes that the Supreme Being will accept of virtue whatever outward circumstances it may be accompanied with, and may be delighted with varieties of worship, but is answered that variety cannot affect that Being who, infinitely happy in his own perfections, wants no external gratifications, nor can infinite truth be delighted with falsehood, that though he may guide or pity those he leaves in darkness, he abandons those who shut their eyes against the beams of day. Johnson's residence at Lichfield, on his return to it at this time, was only for 3 months, and as he had as yet seen but a small part of the wonders of the metropolis, he had little to tell his townsmen. He related to me the following minute anecdote of this period. In the last age, when my mother lived in London, there were 2 sets of people, those who gave the wall and those who took it, the peaceable and the quarrelsome. When I returned to Lichfield, after having been in London, my mother asked me whether I was one of those who gave the wall or those who took it. Now it is fixed that every man keeps to the right, or if one is taking the wall, another yields it, and it is never a dispute. He now removed to London with Mrs. Johnson, but her daughter, who had lived with them at Edial, was left with her relations in the country. His lodgings were for some time in Woodstock Street near Hanover Square, and afterwards in Castle Street near Cavendish Square. As there is something pleasingly interesting to many in tracing so great a man through all his different habitations, I shall, before this work is concluded, present my readers with an exact list of his lodgings and houses in order of time, which, in placid condescension to my respectful curiosity, he one evening dictated to me, but without specifying how long he lived at each. In the progress of his life, I shall have occasion to mention some of them as connected with particular incidents, or with the writing of particular parts of his works. To some this minute attention may appear trifling, but when we consider the punctilious exactness with which the different houses in which Milton resided have been traced by the writers of his life, a similar enthusiasm may be pardoned in the biographer of Johnson. His tragedy being by this time, as he thought, completely finished and fit for the stage, he was very desirous that it should be brought forward. Mr. Peter Garrick told me that Johnson and he went together to the Fountain Tavern and read it over, and that he afterwards solicited Mr. Fleetwood, the patentee of Drury Lane Theatre, to have it acted at his house. But Mr. Fleetwood would not accept it, probably because it was not patronized by some man of high rank, and it was not acted till 1749, when his friend David Garrick was manager of that theatre. The Gentleman's Magazine, begun and carried on by Mr. Edward Cave under the name of Sylvanus Urban, had attracted the notice and esteem of Johnson in an eminent degree before he came to London as an adventurer in literature. He told me that when he first saw St. John's Gate, the place where that deservedly popular miscellany was originally printed, he beheld it with reverence. I suppose, indeed, that every young author has had the same kind of feeling for the magazine or periodical publication which has first entertained him, and in which he has first had an opportunity to see himself in print without the risk of exposing his name. I myself recollect such impressions from the Scots Magazine, which was begun at Edinburgh in the year 1739, and has been ever conducted with judgment, accuracy, and propriety. I yet cannot help thinking of it with an affectionate regard. Johnson has dignified the Gentleman's Magazine by the importance with which he invests the life of Cave, but he has given it still greater luster by the various admirable essays which he wrote for it. End of section 8. Recording by Michael Yearshaw, Los Angeles, California.